Hello everybody, my name is Benji, and welcome to a thing that I didn't really expect to be doing so soon. At least not when this video was originally released 10 days ago, but I'm finally getting around to making a video about it for anybody who's here for my Satisfactory content. 10 days ago, they announced that Update 7 was going to be coming to Experimental this past Tuesday, which, if I remember correctly, was the 15th of November. Totally didn't just pull up a calendar on my second monitor. No, sir. This past Tuesday, Update 7 released on the Experimental build on Satisfactory, and it includes one of the most requested things since day one of Satisfactory, and that is blueprints. So the new building in Satisfactory, which was teased, was this big old cube thing in Satisfactory's Update 7 teaser video. And I was like, what's this cube thing gonna be? Is this cube thing gonna be, you know, a specific building that needs to create space elevator parts? Is this a teleporter for SAM ore usage? Is this gonna be some kind of, something that has to do with the story of the game? Are we gonna get a glimpse into anything? And the one thing that I wasn't expecting, because they said we're probably not gonna add blueprints to the game because we don't know how to balance blueprints with Satisfactory, which is totally fair, and I'll get into why I think that's totally fair in a couple of minutes. It's kind of the purpose of this video. But they announced that this is something that they're gonna add. They're adding blueprints. So this machine right here, and I apologize for not being in Satisfactory Experimental right now, it's very buggy, I haven't unlocked it, I haven't messed around with it, so I don't want to make a video about it, but I've watched so many YouTube videos and so many streams, and I have my own opinion that I want to get into without me even touching Satisfactory Update 7. So this blueprint, as you can see, kind of demonstrated here by the power poles and the foundations, is a 4 foundation by 4 foundation grid. So it is 32 meters by 32 meters by 32 meters in a cube, obviously, because Satisfactory is a 3-dimensional game. That's another thing I'm going to touch on here in a little bit. And the reason why they decided that they wanted to limit the blueprints down to this 32 by 32 by 32 meters box is so that you can't just build a factory that's like 100 foundations cubically and then plop down, you know, 5 per minute heavy modular frames in every single biome, plug in your ore, and then be done. Like, they don't want it to be a 5-minute experience. They want the game to have a balance, and I'll link this video here in the description so you can hear Snut talk a little bit more about it, our lovely community manager, Snut. They want to strike a balance between, yeah, we make it easy to do the tedious shit, but you still have to do enough in the game in order to feel that sense of satisfaction, hence Satisfactory. You want to be able to look at a factory that you just built and say, yeah, I put my hard work into that, it was worth it, and I'm proud of what I've done. But one of the things that I've talked about in the past is the fact that there's so much tedium with the placement of mergers and splitters and belts and pipes and refineries and all the weaving, and once you've done it once, you've done it a million times, and you have to do it a million times more, and it's annoying. Once you get into the late game, where, like, I just built a factory that's 4 items per minute nuclear pasta. For that build, I had to have 780 iron ingots. Just for 4 per minute output, I needed to have 760 iron per minute input. Not to mention all of the oil and the quartz and everything else, and it's so many machines and belts, and it's annoying. It gets tedious. So their hope with these blueprints is specifically they want it so that you can build manifold designs. And the one that he goes through here is he makes a manifold for iron rods. So he has 8 constructors with his mergers and his splitters, all making iron rods, which I think is like, each of these is 15, so 30, 60, 120 iron rods per minute here that he's made. And it gives you the cost, you can name it, you can description it, you can set where it goes in the directory. And yes, there is going to be a file directory where these blueprints get saved so that they can be shared, just like you share Dyson Sphere program blueprints. I'll have a, Google Drive that I share a link with for everybody to view. That way you can have my blueprints. That's another thing I'm going to touch on. I know I'm saying that I'm going to touch on a lot of things, and hopefully I do. If I don't, just call me out on it in the comments. But then you have all your blueprints here with all your stuff, and you can put them into different areas, and then you can just have them rip-roaring and ready to go. You take them out. Let me see if I can find it here. You take it out, you hover around, and then you place it, and it just places.
Look at it go. I think the build effect is a bit too slow, but you get the point. Look at that. There's our manifold.
There you go. So instead of being able to make one factory in a single click, like you can do with Dyson Sphere program, or like you can do with Factorio, you have to create these pieces. So one of the things that I plan to do with this is I plan to have like an iron smelting blueprint where I have like 5, 4, 6, whatever smelters in a row, just like this, one on either side. And then because of the fact that you can do 32 by 32, I might make like a lower level and an upper level. That way I get the most throughput for a single blueprint, right? Because we're going to maximize that as much as we can so we don't have to place as many of them and do as much hard work ourselves. And then I'll have like an iron one and a copper one and a caterium one and iron rods, iron plates, screws, maybe something that takes like iron plates and screws and creates modular frames, or iron plates and screws and creates reinforced iron plates and modular frames. I don't know. That's kind of my plan right now, is just to make these piecewise things just like I did with Dyson Sphere program, where I had one for the supermagnetic turbines, or supermagnetic rings, one for the magnetic rings themselves, or the magnetic coils, one for the smelting, like that sort of thing. Have those piecewise blueprints, that way I can put them all down together in a like grid-like formation, and then I can just hook them all together. Now, to wrap back to one of the first things that I said, the reason why this is so different and so difficult for Satisfactory to balance as opposed to Dyson Sphere program and Factorio has to do with two things. It has to do with the dimensionality of the games and the difference between the dimensionalities of the games. And it has to do with the construction method of the games. In Dyson Sphere program and in Factorio, you constantly have these things called malls that build all of your smelters, constructors, assembly machines, belts, refineries, oil processing hubs, chemical plants, roboports, whatever. You've got all of these different things at your disposal at all times. Your buildings are created in a mall so that you have them in your inventory. And with Dyson Sphere Program, you have little robots that come out of you and place down your blueprint. As soon as you place it down, you have to wait for your robots to place down the blueprint. So the larger the blueprint, and the less research you have toward your bots and your bot speed and all of that stuff, the longer it's going to take that blueprint to build. It's still going to take time. Factorio is very much the same way. You can have a personal roboport with construction robots, or you can have a roboport network for your base with construction robots. And depending on your upgrade speed and upgrade capacity and all of this stuff, it'll take a while for those robots to achieve that task. It's not instantaneous. It's instantaneously planned. Satisfactory is very different. You have raw materials, and then constructors and belts and power poles and everything like that get built from raw materials directly from your inventory. You don't have to make a constructor in order to place a constructor down, unlike Dyson Sphere Program and Factorio, where you do. This means that Satisfactory's blueprint placing is immediate. Like Snoot just showed us right here.
Look at it go.
He clicked, and then it goes. And it's done. It's completely done. There's nothing else that you have to do. You don't have to wait. It's done. In the snap of a finger, you've got 120 per minute iron rods. Boom. Completely finished. And that's really hard to balance. The fact that there's no time that you have to wait. The fact that there's no metric of any sort of value to this waiting. There's no drawback to having a blueprint. You build it once, you can build it as complicated as you like, and then boom, all of a sudden, you have your blueprint, you can place it down everywhere you go, and bingo, you can have 120, 240, 480 in 4 clicks. You can have 480 iron rods per second, and that is both a blessing and a curse. Which is why I'm glad that they've limited it to that 32 by 32 area. You can't just click, 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 boom, factory's done. You can't just click, boom, factory's done. And that's how it should be. There's no sense of satisfaction when you just design a blueprint once, and then you have this whole factory, and you go around the map spamming a whole bunch. There's not really a lot of satisfaction to that. The satisfaction, for me at least, comes from the utilization of these different blueprints together to create something bigger. You have yourself these pieces of a puzzle, and it's your job to figure out how you want those pieces of a puzzle that you designed by hand to fit together into this masterpiece. And honestly, I think Satisfactory is going a perfect direction with that. Factorio and Dyson Sphere Program have their own method to their madness of going through with this, and Satisfactory now has their own method of madness that they're going through it. And yeah, it's going to be a little crazy, and there are going to be people, there already are people, I'll see if I can find it here, actually. There was a Satisfactory subreddit post that I saw a decent while ago now, where somebody put like 50-something constructors into a single blueprint, and I'm like, man, that's just too complicated for me. Here, I just found it. I found it right here. Coffee stain. The blueprint designer is mainly for manifolds. You can't build entire factories in it. Reddit users. And then they've got shit like this. That's not what I want to do. I do not want to do this with my blueprints. Like, this is great. And congratulations to the person who designed this. Congratulations to them for figuring it out. If this is what you want to do with your blueprints, fucking go for it. That's the best part about factory games, and something I probably should have said at the beginning. Play them how you want. You don't have to play them the way I play them, or Kibitz plays them, or anybody else plays them. You don't have to play them the way that anybody else plays them. You get to do what you want to do. This is not what I want to do! Like, each of these layers here has 8 constructors, and there's 4 layers. So within a 32 by 32 by 32 grid, they have fit 32 constructors with power lines and belts. That's just insanity. It is utter insanity. And that's not what I want to do with my blueprints. Now, the second point that I was talking about there was the dimensionality of the 2 games, which leads into what I just talked about a little bit with complexity. In games like Factorio and Dyson Sphere Program, you only have essentially 2 dimensions that you get to work with. With Dyson Sphere Program, you can weave belts in certain ways, and you can stack labs, and you can stack... there's one other thing you can stack. I don't remember what it... Well, there's storage. You can stack storage, but that doesn't really matter. But you can't stack on top of one another construction buildings. And you can belt weave on top of and below one another, and yada yada, whatever. And in Factorio, it's very much the same way. You have buildings that occupy a space, and then you can have your belts go on the ground or under the ground underneath of one another. With Satisfactory, you have a lot more freedom, because there's 3 dimensions. And you can put constructors and stuff, like I just showed, on top of one another, directly. Which means that this extra layer of dimensionality is going to cause players to do super complex things with their blueprints, like this. And while, like I said, people get to play the game how they want to play the game, and yeah, that's true, that's totally true, I feel like it adds a certain unnecessary level of complexity to the game instead. And I think the only way to balance that is to do what Coffee Stain has done and limit the space to 32 by 32. There's a lot of people that say, oh, you can't limit it, you shouldn't limit it, you gotta give the players what they want. But honestly, it's kinda is what you should want. You should want pieces of a puzzle. You shouldn't want to just have to, or be able to just immediately click down an entire factory for a nuclear power plant or whatever. You should want to have that puzzle. Part of the factory game's satisfaction, again, for me, is that puzzle. The puzzle of it all is just phenomenal for me. So, do I think blueprints are good for Satisfactory? That's kind of really what I'm getting at. And at the end of the day, I have to say yes. Yes, I do. I do think blueprints are good for Satisfactory. I think they're being implemented exactly as they should be implemented. And I will stick by that statement. Now, and I think I've given enough of a reason as to why I think that so far. Now, why am I not touching experimental? Why am I not coming back to Satisfactory yet? It's one of my favorite games of all time. It is the game that I have the most hours in Steam. Like, above everything else, I think the only one that gets close is like Dyson Sphere. I have 265. Mindustry, I have 417. Satisfactory, I have 808. Like, nothing even compares to that. My second one is Mindustry, and it's half the time. So why on earth am I not coming back to Satisfactory? Well, the answer to that is quite simple. And it's because while blueprints are such a huge addition to come to the game, and it's such a step in the right direction, and I can't wait to mess around with blueprints and just use them and abuse them, and it's going to make factories and progression so much easier. There's two main reasons why I'm not coming back yet. The first is bugs. It's an experimental release. There's a lot of bugs right now, and I just, quite frankly, don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with the bugs. I want something a little more smooth, a little more polished. I want something a little more finished, if that makes sense. If you get the hint I'm dropping here. There's a bug right now where rails that were blueprinted in the blueprint machine do not snap to other rails. And one of the main things I'm looking forward to using the blueprints for is making a pillar design for my rails so that I can plop the pillar down every 10 or so foundations and then attach rails in between the pillars. So I automatically already have my signals set up. I don't have to hand place those. And I don't have to hand place all the foundations. And I can just connect the track from one to the other. I plan to do something very similar for belt manifolds, conveyor belt highways, and pipe highways as well, just for organization purposes. I plan to have a blueprint for like a square of foundations that I can just square. Boom! Now all of a sudden I have like a 16 by 16, like that. Super simple, just like Smart Mod, but without the mods. That would be great, in my opinion. But the issue is that the rails are buggy. The conveyor belts, if you pull out a conveyor belt, your frame rate immediately tanks to like 5 FPS, and I don't particularly feel like doing that. There's an issue with pipes right now where they will clip into belt holes instead of pipe holes, especially when being blueprinted and copied from one another. There's an issue, I believe I saw something on the Reddit about the power lines having an issue where the power lines would crash if you connected power to a blueprinted power line. It'll crash your power grid immediately. And there's just no mod support, so I can't fly. Hover pack apparently doesn't work with rails right now. That's another thing as I'm like looking at this. There's just a lot of bugs, a lot of issues. And then the second reason is I don't want to burn myself out before 1.0. Satisfactory Update 7 is currently planned for a late 2022, early 2023 release. So either December around Christmas time for 2023, or 2022 rather, or 2022, for 2022, or January, mid to early January of 2023, Update 7 will be released. Which is fantastic. But that also means that Update 1, 1.0, with the story, and the SAM ore, and the utilization, and all of these things that add atmosphere to a game about building factories, which is something that I love. I love Dyson Sphere's whole little nitpicky story stuff that it's adding as it goes, and the combat update. I love Factorio's story, or slight interaction of a story. There is a main goal. A main goal that isn't just provide parts to a space elevator. It's a main goal of launch a rocket and survive. I want to wait for that. I do not want to burn myself out before that update comes, and I finally get that piece of a story that just ties all of the factory building up in a nice, neat little bow. I can't wait for that, but I have to. So that's why I'm not coming back for Update 7. I'm not doing anything in my playthrough for Update 7. I'm not checking out the Blueprint Designer until it's out on early access at the earliest for coming back. And that'll only be to check out the constructor, not to play the game. Just check it out, see how it works. Because I want to wait. I want to wait. It's really as simple as I want to wait. Now, one thing that popped into my head as I was talking about this and said, wrapped up in a nice, neat little bow. Fixmas. What am I doing about Fixmas? Well, I don't know. I'll probably pop in the month of December once, Fixmas drops on, hopefully, early access. I already have a factory in my world for update 4/5/6, I guess, technically. For all of my Fixmas stuff, we've got the Industrial Prison, the Industrial Christmas Factory. So I'll hopefully get that started back up and running and operating properly. I'll make sure it has no bugs and all of the conveyors are in the right place. I'll see if they add anything new, and if they add anything new, I'll give it a shot and see what I think about it, because it's Fixmas. It's fun. It's Christmas, but in factory game. But other than that, I'm not really going to do anything with Satisfactory until 1.0, and I've essentially made up my mind on that. The only thing that might get me to come back sooner is some huge revelation, which I can't even tell you what that might be, because I have no idea what that might be. We'll just have to wait and see. But for now, don't expect anything major like a playthrough for Satisfactory until 1.0 comes out. But mark my words, it will happen when 1.0 comes out. So that is going to be it from me today. Just my thoughts on Update 7, my thoughts on the blueprints, and my thoughts on Satisfactory as a whole are provided in my review video, in the review playlist on my channel. But that is going to be it for today. Obviously, link to Coffee Stain Studios video here is going to be in the description. And I might go on ahead and link I'm Kibitz's video and a couple of other videos like it. Total Eclipse's stuff as well, just in case you want to get some of your Satisfactory itch scratched while I'm gone from the game. But without further ado, adios, sayonara, au revoir, hasta la vista, das vidania, wiedersehen, ciao, and goodbye. Please have yourselves all a fantastic rest of your day. Get some sleep if you need to. Don't forget to stay hydrated. This video is in the bag. And I will see you guys in the next one. Take care, y'all. Later.